What's up? 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 Y'all good? Y'all having a good day? We back. I'm trying to work this live, y'all. This is my first MacBook live. We live off the computer finally. I told you guys I will be going live off the computer finally, and we can finally chop it up. I'm trying to see something, so let me know if you guys can hear me and see me still. So, boom. Share. No. Oh, that's not what I wanted. No, that's not what I wanted. Share. Bear with me, you guys. This is my first time on this, trying this. Oh no, that's not how I want to look though. Hide and screen. No, not yet. Don't end the screen. Stop the sharing. Let's try this. No. Nope. Boom. Let's see. Boom. Share. Can you guys hear me and see me still? It's a great question. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Boom. Yeah. Okay. Boom. Cool. Teofimo Lopez is trying to buy out of this deal. Can you guys see me and hear me well? Okay, cool. Perfect. Tio, if you guys don't know Tio, he's been looking to get out of his deal. Shout out to him finally. He's been actually, feeling like he's been getting treated, very, terrible at Toprank. But that's on him. Bear with me, you guys. This is my first time actually, hitting it live and on my MacBook and starting to use it. So it might seem kind of funny, but it is what it is. But I was on Boxing News, just reading articles, and he said he's basically trying to get out of his deal, which shocked me because I thought T.O. would actually stay with Toprank because they actually been giving T.O. a lot of nods that he hasn't deserved. T.O.'s been getting a lot of nods. He has been looking the best. And you know, I'm not saying he's the greatest, but you know, I do think Top Rank was Top Rank and him had a beneficial relationship in my opinion, but it is what it is. You know, I think this is good, but I think with him trying to move on, he's not going to get the same nods that he used to get, you know, because Top Rank in his last 3, you know, he hasn't been, you know, it hasn't been the best. He's been struggling. It's been a lot, you know, and it is what it is. But and I can show you because now I actually have time to boom, you know, and just, you know, comment if you guys can't hear me, but I can just pull this up. Boom. Boom. Cool. You know, okay, cool. Here's the last 4, you know, cool. Sandor Martin was his first fight at 140. It wasn't his best, you know, showing, and a lot of people gave Sandor the nod, and you know, you could have. He boxed pretty well, and he kind of gave Tio a lot of trouble. Now he got the scrap against Josh Taylor, and this is what made him lineal champion at 140, beating a Josh Taylor who a lot of people thought that Josh Taylor lost to Jack Catterall. And me and my brother, we watched it and seen it live. And, you know, I told my brother that, you know, they were going to rob Jack Catterall because of this fight. And it is what it is. Now, Jermaine Ortiz, a lot of people thought Jermaine Ortiz beat T.O. right here. And that T.O. got the nod. It is what it is. We not saying he did. It was a very close fight. I edged Jermaine Ortiz in this fight. I think I had it 7-5 for Ortiz. I thought he outboxed T.O. Steve Clegette, I didn't even watch this because, in all honesty, you didn't know that fight was going on. If we just being 100, you guys didn't know. Nobody knew. It happened in Miami and nobody tuned in. But you know, I guess now he's fighting Sabril Matisse, and I think Sabril Matisse is, you know, gonna be one of his toughest foes in my opinion. I don't even know if they don't have it set officially on BoxRec, which I think they should, because I think that's pretty much next for him. And I think that would be a good idea. But you know, Top Rank has been known to, you know, do things like this. They have been known to, you know, have guys over there and not pay them. But I wanted the contract, you know, TFM must sign. It had to be a terrible contract. You know, he's only 27. He's been with Top Rank pretty much his whole career, which I think they've had him sign for so long. I don't think he understood where he would be in the boxing game. If we just keep it in the stack, I don't think he understood where he would be. I thought he maybe thought, oh, I'm just gonna be, you know, average guy, but you know, as it turned out, you know, he didn't grab. He was unified. A lot of people like to say he was undisputed, but he was not. This was a unification fight. Vasily Lomachenko. He fought Vasily Lomachenko in a unification, and then, you know, the fight after, he lost to George Kambosos, and we all seen what happened that night. So, you know, he still accomplished. You gotta give him credit. You know, he also beat a Richard Comey for, you know, that IBF. You know, so, and then he went straight for Lomachenko. A lot of guys, you usually don't do that, and you don't see guys just jump into a fight, you know, because he was the underdog in that fight. Even though Lomachenko was banged up, we still got to give him credit for it. He got it done. And then, you know, beating Josh Taylor, that was a real big win. You know, even though I didn't think Josh Taylor, even though I thought Josh Taylor lost to Jack Catterall, I thought that he would beat T.O. And, T.O.'s style with the athleticism, his athleticism definitely played a factor in that fight. So I'm not going to hate on him and, say he doesn't get credit for that, So, I got to say, T.O. has actually, done more than, other guys wouldn't even get, close to a T.O. resume. So I'm giving him credit. I would love to see him get in there with Ryan or something like that, but who knows? Him getting out of this deal would be great. I think. Why not? Why not get out of this deal? Do you guys hear my brother? It's my little brother. He's so loud. He's always loud. Don't pay him no attention, though, you guys. That's my dog. Boom. So we back. Yeah. Him leaving. I mean, I don't like the fact that you ask you get on Twitter and say what's your buyout number, and I think that's that's tacky. I think you should have kind of kept that secret, but maybe he wants Toprank to know he's trying to get out and publicizing it, even though Toprank is very beneficial for him. Matchroom will try to snatch him up. Golden Boy, all those guys are going to try to snatch him up. And I don't think T.O. has the skill to hang on a limb by himself in free agency. If we being real, I just don't think he has the skill set to actually go out there and get it done in free agency and get wins, because he's going to be in very close fights. So I just don't see it. Call me crazy. Gotta stay hydrated, y'all. Shout out to my babe. She got me right. But yeah, it's gonna be controversy in my opinion. I mean, you go to Matchroom. I'm pretty sure Eddie Hearn is gonna try to feed him to the wolves. Eddie Hearn will try to feed him to the wolves, and I don't know if he can handle it. The wolves will try to get him, and it's gonna be a lot of nothing. It's nothing he's gonna be able to hide behind, because I'm pretty sure Turkey Al-Sheikh, if he made some of these fights, would offer a big bag. So it's not gonna be money. So it's gonna be on the will of him fight, and do you want to get in there with certain guys? That's the issue. Does he really do it? That's the key, because I don't think Bob is gonna ask for a crazy bag to get T.O. out of his contract. I'm thinking it's maybe 400,000, something like that. I don't think it's gonna be too crazy, and because I don't think the court situation is smart. If he tries to go to court with Bob, they're just gonna sit him on the bench for years and sit him behind litigations and a lot of that, which is gonna suck, in my opinion. So I wouldn't recommend that, in my opinion. I think he should probably try to buy out of the contract, but does he have the means? Because what if it's in something insane? Bob might want $1 million, but I don't think Bob does him like that. To ask for $1 million, that's tough. That's an insane amount of money. And for T.O. to say he's never made $1 million, yeah, that's I'm not a fan of that. So he's in a tough situation. Very tough situation. That's just what I think. But he's supposed to fight Sabril Matisse on March 15th, non-pay-per-view event on ESPN. And a lot of people do think that's tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a very tough fight for T.O. In my opinion, I think T.O. gets it done. I think, T.O. does still have some skills, and he's very athletic. And I don't think Sabril Matisse is the craziest. He's a big puncher, and I think that might be the only, thing he brings to the table. I don't think he's a crazy boxer. I don't think it's nothing super defensively sound about him. So I think T.O. should be able to capitalize using his athleticism and things like that. So yeah, that's just how I feel. Yeah, you see it right here. Hey, Top Rank Boxing. What's my buyout? Just a question. Also, I respect if you reply here, not around the corner. Thank you, and have a blessed first Sunday of the new year. You know, I'm not shocked. He feels this way. I'm just not shocked. He's been complaining for years. Years and years, and yeah, I'm finally shocked it took him this long to finally say something. Because they've had him in a slave deal. I'm just gonna be honest. They had him in a slave deal. But T.O. don't blame Top Rank, you guys. You guys can't just sit here and blame. And I'm usually, on Top Rank hard. Like you can't blame Top Rank because T.O. signed a deal. And if we being real, T.O. didn't think he was gonna be this big. He didn't. He didn't think he was gonna be this big at all. If I'm just being honest and realistic with you guys, he didn't think he was gonna be this big. He probably thought he was gonna be just an average Joe. So, and Top Rank just struck gold. They got a champion, a unified champion. Then they got him, to lineal in another division. So, he's even flirting with going up to welterweight. So, Top Rank probably got him for, you know, um, 2 bags of chips and a 50-cent Fago. What it is right now at the store. Probably about $2.68. That ain't that ain't bad. The dollar bags now. You don't got the 50-cent bags no more. So, I would say, what that would be like 150, but it ain't like that no more. So, you got the dollar bag of chips. So, Top Rank got him for the low. He got to take that one on the chin. I'm surprised he got the buyout. So, he does have a lot of trouble. These fighters do live outside of their means, as far as financial. Me and brother was just talking about that, guys, you guys live a very high life. So do you have the financial? Do you have the financial to get out of this contract? I would love to see it. I would. I'm kind of digging the MacBook stream. No cap. I am. I'm kind of digging it. It's kind of smooth. I just don't know how my transitions are like. That might be my only, like, when I click off. I wonder how do you guys still get to see my face? That's my only issue. But I'm feeling it. Do you guys? Let me know if you guys like this or the vertical lives better. Let me know. I'm probably gonna upload this to the channel. Oh my gosh, I don't want to call him by his first name and embarrass him. That's one of my young bulls. So I'm not gonna embarrass him. You guys, fun fact, I work with kids and they stress me out. Too bad, 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 too bad. But let's talk about it. Yeah, let's move on, man. Devin Haney. Gosh, Devin Haney. Devin Haney is returning, said he's returning to the ring in March. And it's gonna be on BLK Prime on March 25th. Ooh, a lot of people been giving him flack for this. This is kind of insane. I'm not I'm not a fan of the BLK Prime situation, but I think maybe Devin Haney needs to realize, where he's at in his career. Maybe he still thinks, nothing's changed and his popularity hasn't took a shot at all. And it's is to the point where he needs to understand. He needs to understand his popularity isn't where it's at. You know, you lost to Ryan, even though Ryan was hot, lost to him. You know, the casual isn't going to give you that excuse that you lost. You know, that you lost to a guy that was hot. They're not going to give you that excuse, even though you deserve it, and you know you didn't get a first shake that night. They're gonna remember you getting dropped a few times, even though you got up. They're gonna remember that. And in all honesty, if you just not be so aggressive in that second round, you actually get the job done. You get the job done, in my opinion. I think you do. So you're in a tough situation. A lot of people think it's gonna be Adrian Broner, which is kind of crazy. I don't think he's gonna jump in there with the Sharks. You know, I don't think he's gonna jump in there with the Sharks on his return. I think the best move for him to play is take a tune up. That's the best move for him to play, in my opinion. Take a tune up, and get in there and get your legs back under you. You know, answer some of the questions you need to answer, because I don't think jumping right back in there with the Sharks is very smart. You know, and I'm kind of shocked that he chose this route, but he's been complaining about promoters and things like that on social media, and for him to get a deal with BLK Prime surprises everybody, because if you fighting on BLK Prime, everybody knows it's not going to be somebody of significance, and that's just keeping it real, which I don't mind. I don't mind you not fighting a guy of significance, because I think you should take a tune-up. I think people may have a problem with it because it's BLK Prime, but it is what it is. Maybe they were the network to offer him the money he was looking for, because he's been thinking he thinks he's still at the top of where he was, and he's not. And I think that's probably beating him up, and he's getting that going. And it is what it is. You got to realize, your stock took a hit, even though you didn't get a first shake. Your stock took a hit, and I'm not mad at that. I do think Devin Haney should get credit. He's one of the guys that tries to fight the best, and I think it's more of, like I said in my video. I uploaded a video about this earlier, and I said it's a lot. It's a lot with due to his dad. People don't got their dads in their life, and they might feel away with his relationship. He could come off as cocky because he poses his fancy cars and watches and all that. A lot of people could be jealous of that from Devin Haney, which is crazy. If you live a lavish lifestyle, let him do it. That's his. He's earned the right to do that. I'm not one of these guys that look too deep in a guy's life. I'm more focused, was what's going on in the ring, and I'm trying to, and I kind of think, because I would argue, with my mentor about this. He has a crazy disdain for Floyd, and I think it's more of, outside the ring things than inside, inside the ring, because you got to give Floyd credit. He was nice in the ring, even though he might not have fought guys when you wanted him to fight guys. He fought, even though you might not say, even though I'm not saying he's the best, because he's probably not the best in my opinion. If I just take it deep, but as far as skills, he's one of the, one of the most special guys in boxing, and you got to give him credit. And I don't think my mentor understood that. He couldn't keep his, feelings for how Floyd comes off outside the ring, very flamboyant, cocky. You might not like that from a guy. And I think Devin Haney, having a good relationship with his father, a lot of money, young, flamboyant, you know, a lot of people, they could rub a lot of people the wrong way. And when he lost to Ryan Garcia, it was the perfect time, for guys to jump on him and say, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're not what you think you are. You not, they were ready, to get on him and say he wasn't that guy, even though he didn't get a fair shake. It is what it is. I still rock with Devin Haney because he one of the guys that actually gets in there with the guys, and guys used to avoid him, and he may have lost. It is what it is. It happens. I don't think none of these guys are gonna go undefeated, and it is. I just don't. I don't. Being undefeated, it happens. If it does, if you're fighting top opposition, you're probably not gonna go undefeated. It is what it is. You got those certain guys, that managed to escape, but those guys barely scathed away. Andre Ward, he retired undefeated. Joe Calzaghe, he retired undefeated. Floyd obviously, but Andre Ward, he had a slip up in there. Sergey Kovalev. A lot of people thought in that first fight, Sergey Kovalev beat him. Knock Ward down, and Ward somehow battled back in that second half of the fight, and he got the nod. But a lot of people thought Kovalev beat him. When Floyd fought Castillo the first time, a lot of people thought Castillo beat Floyd. So it's it's rare that a guy retires undefeated, especially when you fight high level competition. It is what it is. I just don't think if you're fighting the highest level of competition, I just don't think it's possible, unless you constantly cherry picking, and it's just unlikely in my opinion. So, that's just what I think. So I knew Haney would lose. It's not, but I don't think he got a fair shake against the Ryan Garcia fight. I don't think fans really held Ryan Garcia to the standard he should have been held to, in my opinion. He only got a 1-year suspension. I mean, it's January now. I mean, he'll be back in 3 months. So yeah, I think the penalty should have been harsher, but it is what it is. The casual fan doesn't care about Ryan Garcia being dirty or being hot. So it is what it is. But I think we should start talking about who's the guy that Devin Haney is going to fight. Return. Who is he going to fight? I'm pretty sure he's going to come back at 40. You're not going to see him jump in there, with T.O. or, none of the other champions right now. But, they saying Sandor Martin, he should definitely probably fight Sandor Martin. I mean, he doesn't have the power punch, the punch to keep Devin Haney scared. And I definitely think Devin's the better boxer. So, that shouldn't be an issue. But, I don't know why they hold Alberto Puello in a high regard. They got popped hot. And you know how I feel about guys that pop hot. It's a no love zone on LOE Visual. We don't show you any love, for being dirty. It is what it is. I don't care what you guys say. He popped hot. He definitely shouldn't be getting the recognition like he's that. But yeah, they're saying Adrian Broner is the fight for Devin Haney next. And being real, hold on, guys. Let's go back to BoxRec. Let's go back to BoxRec and just keep it real. I think my boy Broner last fight. Did I spell his name right? AB. Oh gosh. No, yeah. Y'all trying to be in my business. Go back. Gosh, let's sign up. Let's just make a fake account right quick. Boom. No, let's just go with Google. Who cares? Boom. Am I in? Boom. Am I in? Am I in? Bet. I'm in. We in. We in. We in. We in. Bet. Adrian Broner. They're saying he's supposed to fight Adrian Broner next. Oh gosh, which I find crazy. But I mean, it's a good touch. It's a very light touch. I mean, he just lost to Blair. I don't think AB is going to be able to get down to 40 to fight. So it's probably possibly if they did fight, it would have to be at a catch weight or something. I don't think AB, has the willpower to get down to 140 for sure. So he hasn't even seen it since 2017. And he fought Pacquiao in 2019, 2021, fought Santiago. A lot of people thought he robbed Santiago, which he did. Santiago beat him, but Bill Hutchinson, I definitely didn't watch this. And Blair Cobbs, I actually tuned in and watched Blair Cobbs, and I don't know how, it is what it is, AB just is, he's a shell of himself. He will never be back to what the AB used to be. Let's just keep it a stack. And he's 35, so I don't think this would be a problem if they did fight. So if Devin wants a light touch, this is it, right here. But I mean, let's go to junior welterweight. Super light bit. Submit. Come on. And they still got him held in pretty high regard on BoxRec, which I find kind of, shocking. But, I pretty much don't see him fighting anybody, right here. So it's gonna be a light touch, it has to be. It's he's I want to see what he grabs. I mean, I don't think Rolly. I would. Does he give Rolly a shot? Nah, Rolly's not gonna fight him. It would be some smooth. I think it's gonna be a light touch. Oscar Duarte. That would be probably the best. Something like that. To get him back to where he feels comfortable. Fighting again. So it's going to be a lot. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think Devin Haney should fight on his return? And if you're in here, you guys, make sure y'all like the live. I want everybody to see this, get this out to people. Make sure everybody can see it. So do that for me. But who do you guys think Devin should fight next? I'm not mad, just as long as it's a tune-up. I don't want to see him in there with the killers. I don't think fighting the killers would be a good idea. I just feel like he got questions he needs to answer, and I'm not a guy that'll lie to you guys. I try to shoot it straight down the middle as real as possible, because even though I like Devin, I don't think he got a fair shake. It still happened, the casual fan and regular guys who just don't know anything about boxing, they're gonna say he got beat up. So I think, and he still has to answer those questions. Can he take a shot? It's still questions he needs to answer. How does he feel when he gets hit again? So I want to see him knock the rust off. You can't just come back, because he says he's fighting in March. That'll be 11 months. He fought in April of last year, so that'll be 11 months. I want to see him getting in there, and Bill tried to lie like, oh, we trying to fight Tank and all that. Where Tank isn't coming up to 40 to fight you, even though he might feel like he can beat you because of what Ryan did. He's still not going to entertain you at 40. He's going to make you guys come down. That's just how Tank is going to move. if we keeping a stack. So I just can't see it, in my opinion. I just can't see the situation. So it was just, talk, in my opinion, from Bill. I think Bill is just trying to keep his son, relevant, which is smart, and you got to do that. It is what it is. I'm not mad at it, but I just think it was. I already knew it was just, talk, because why would you throw your son in there with a puncher and he just got. You seen what just happened against Ryan Garcia, so just keep it. Let's just keep it real. I'm not a guy that's gonna lie to you guys and say anything like that. But yeah, I don't think it would have been in his best interest. So, I'm definitely a fan of the tune up, for sure. You know, and it is what it is. I still rock with Devin Haney. There's a lot of fights I do still want to see him, you know, actually get done, in my opinion. And if we keeping it stacked, I would still want to see the TO fight. I think that's been brewing. I think the TO fight between Devin Haney has been brewing, for years, and eventually, I don't know what's taking those guys so long to do that fight. I do think both guys, are, because do I want to see it at welterweight? I mean, nah, I don't. I wouldn't mind. I just think, nah. I rather see it now. You know, uh, if we keeping it a stack, because I feel like 47 isn't going to be their best division. If we just being real, I don't think 47 is going to be To and Devin's best division. In my opinion, it's a lot. We just, I don't know why we think guys could just jump up. You see why guys, it's a lot to jump up, and I just don't recommend it. As far as it being just super sweet, but I think it should happen at 40 if it does. Especially if Devin gets this tune up, he knocks off the rust. To is supposed to fight Sabril Matisse, and they're supposed to get that done, which I'm excited for. Hopefully, they finally get that done, and we get that. T.O. hasn't been looking the best in his last few performances, so hopefully we get a big fight with T.O. and Devin. I think that's probably the best thing going at 40. I just don't see Ryan entertaining To. To talking about a 55-45 split, which is crazy. I'm not even gonna discuss that. I'll stay on topic. But yeah, if Devin takes the tune up, for sure, I would love to see him. Richardson Hitchison, he's the newest champion. He just beat Liam Paro. They try to rob him. They really tried to. I didn't like the scorecards in that fight. They definitely thought they tried to get over on Richardson, which is crazy. But yeah, he's the newest. I don't think Devin's going to be just jumping to give Richardson a shot, because it's not going to be worth as much as a Teofimo Lopez fight, or something like that. A Ryan Garcia rematch. I'm pretty sure they still want to do that Ryan Garcia rematch. I think that lawsuit. I think Devin should drop that lawsuit if he really wants that Ryan Garcia rematch. I think it's the smartest thing to do. If he really wants that Ryan Garcia rematch, uh, especially after the tune-up, he should drop the lawsuit. And I'm pretty sure Ryan Garcia would drop the counter suit, and we would get the fight, because it was the biggest fight in 2024. If we keeping it a stat, guys, it was the biggest thing going. It was the most talked about fight of the year. We keeping it stacked. Everybody enjoyed it. It was talked about afterwards, and it had so much effect even after the fight. It had collateral damage after the fight. So with Ryan Garcia testing hot, so I'm I'm definitely a fan of the rematch. I just think uh Devin should take tune up a good tune up in my opinion. I think that would be smart. Uh and hold on guys. Boom. Boom. I'm trying to up update my I'm updating my the title of the live because this is really the next topic before I talk about the college football playoff. Uh, oh God! Oh! Boom! 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 My bad. Yeah, my bad. I was saving the title because that's what I was talking about. Knicks. It is what it is. But yeah, let me get out for box where you can go back to what I was on, giving you guys the scoop. Oh, we're gonna talk about that Knicks when I move on. I'm definitely gonna talk about that Knicks. But hold on, what was I? We was talking about Devin with his BLK prime return. I see why the fans trolling my dog though. I see why the fans trolling my dog though, because BLK Prime, they haven't really produced anything. They produced the David Avenesian versus Terrence Crawford. That sold terribly. And they were supposed to do AB versus Ivan Rickcash, and they fell through. But I'm trying to see, how do they keep producing bags? Because they had to give Devin Haney a bag for this. For him to even think about this, they had to give him a bag, and because I'm pretty sure he's been begging. He's been begging, these networks to give him what he thinks he deserves. But like I said earlier in the live, he has to understand that, his popularity took a hit. It's not that, he's not the it's not that, he's not talented, he's not skilled, and he might, even deserve it, but they're gonna do their best to lowball him because, of what happened April 20th of last year. They're going to do their best, which is smart from promoters, even though I don't think it's fair, but it's smart. If it, in business, sometimes you got to kind of be cruel. And me and bro talk about it. Sometimes you got to be a little cruel in business. You might not want to do it, but, it's either there to get stepped on. And sometimes you got to follow the rules. I don't make them, but yeah, it's I don't see it. It's not gonna be. It has to be something light. It has to be something light. But let's move on. We 45 minutes in. If you're in the live, make sure y'all like the live for me. Shout out to y'all. But let's talk about it. Shakur and Kid Austin. How much of a chance does Kid Austin have against Shakur Stevenson? Let's just be real. You know, let's just talk about it. Kid Austin let's go to Box Rick first. Let's just go to Box Rick first before I just deep dive in it. He's taking a big risk here. Floyd Schofield. Floyd Schofield. Where is this? Yep, this is him. Kid Austin, 22. He's facing Shakur Stevenson, Knicks. And in my opinion, I've been talking about it on my channel. I've been stating that he's kind of green, but he's taking a chance. Maybe he sees something that we don't see, or what LOE Visuals don't see, because T.O. don't see it. I don't. His last fight was against Giron, and Giron dropped him. If you guys didn't watch it or didn't see it, Giron dropped him, and he had to get back up and rally. But these guys right here, Alberto Mercado and Leon, and these aren't the level of guys, that's gonna prepare you for a guy like Shakur Stevenson, and that's no knock to Floyd. I do think he's taking a big challenge, and I think guys in boxing should take challenges and do things like this. But if we keeping it real, in my honest opinion, I think he's green. I do think he's green. I don't think he's took the necessary, fights. He's only 22. Some people try to say he's kind of like a polished Sean Porter, something like that. And, I think it's either, Floyd is going to out hustle Shakur and do his best to try to do that, or Shakur is going to make it look easy, and it's going to be 11-1, something like that, something crazy. It's one of those, and I'm leaning towards it being something like that, 11-1. Unless Shakur has another injury with them hands, because his hands are brittle, and he's coming off that injury, so we don't know if Shakur is going to being able to hold up against the injury. But as far as experience, you definitely have to edge Shakur. The silver medalist, the age, he has the age advantage, and he's been in big fights, in my opinion. A lot of guys might not say it, but he's a 3-division champion. I gotta give him credit for that. A lot of people don't like to give Shakur his credit, and that's because he doesn't make the best case on Twitter. He likes to talk kind of crazy on Twitter, which I mean it rubs certain people the right way, or certain people not gonna like it. But he fought Artem Haryutin, the guy that Frank Martin fought, both of them. And I thought Artem kind of milled it in, and a lot of people gave Shakur flack, but I thought Artem kind of milled that fight in. He didn't really want to win, and Edwin De Los Santos, I don't see anybody just jumping in there with Edwin De Los Santos, because Edwin De Los Santos, if I'm not mistaken, was the guy that iced Jose Valenzuela, and we can go check that because shout out to the live stream where I can share. Yup, he iced Jose Valenzuela. But Valenzuela bounced back. That was in 2022. And a lot of people like to say, Shakur made that fight boring, but I didn't see Edwin just try to, engage crazy. And Yoshino, that was his first fight at 35. Pretty decisive win. Conceição, beat Conceição. Oscar Valdez, this was a unification fight. I think this was also for the lineal championship at 130. A lot of people haven't. I think this is a big win right here. Jamel Herring, I knew that was going to happen. But, this is his first title. Fought Christopher Diaz. He has a decent resume. I'm not going to say Shakur has the best resume ever. He has a solid resume. I think once he gets one of those guys like a tank or something on his resume, or something that he can establish himself with a decent resume, because he's done a lot. There's he's been champion at those smaller weight classes, 126, 130. Now he's champion 135 and 135. A lot of people feel like this hasn't been his best division, but you know, he hasn't lost. But Floyd Schofield may see something that we don't see. He was trying to fight Tank, and that kind of stopped. The chirping with that, they kind of stopped quick, which surprised me because I knew he wasn't going to try to fight Tank. I think his dad really, they might be setting him up. In my opinion, I just don't think it was in his best interest to try to fight Shakur right now, especially off that last performance. And this, no knock to this guy, but I just don't think this was good. And when you get to the higher level, you got to understand knockouts rarely happen. When you get to the highest level of competition, knockouts rarely happen. So, I don't think he's gonna stop Shakur, but if he does, it's gonna be crazy. And you're gonna have to give him credit for it. Oh, my phone. Whatever. You're gonna have to give him credit, but I just don't see it happening. Him getting a stoppage in this type of fight. It's gonna be a boxing match. He's gonna make Floyd Schofield work to win rounds, and it's gonna be hard for Floyd to win rounds, in my opinion, on a guy like Shakur Stevenson. That's no knock to him. I love him. You love the young guys. I think he's a young guy that's good for the sport. But I think Shakur gets it done unanimously. He possibly be some 9-3, 10-2, something like that. I think it's gonna be kind of easy, in my opinion. But you got to give Floyd, credit. Maybe, who knows, because you never know what a guy's going into the ring with. He could be injured. He could be, hands might not hold up. Injury might not have healed properly. Who knows? Because Shakur, was injured and he was ready to jump back in there, and who knows, he might have healed like he should have. So, Floyd, you got to give him credit for taking risks, because you don't see a lot of young guys take risks in the sport. They be scared and they be trying to keep this. They try to keep this O. That's the thing of the game. You try to keep that O for as long as possible, and that's what you use to make your money. Which I don't think it should be good. I don't think it should be the ideal of the sport. And I think Floyd kind of ruined Floyd. Floyd Mayweather kind of ruined it. He made it seem like you had to have this O to make a lot of money in the sport, and I don't think that's the truth in the case. Because right now in the sport, it needs the best guys to fight the best guys for the sport to survive. A lot of people think boxing is dying and UFC is taking over, which may be the case. But UFC is struggling at a point right now. They've kind of hit a constant. They haven't risen, or they kind of been like, they was going up, but they kind of been here. Because they starting to have this same situation as far as people want bigger financial situation. And I think that's the part that's holding the sport up, guys. So shout out to Floyd for actually taking a risk to go fight Shakur, because he didn't have to. If we being honest, he didn't have to take this fight. He was on social media trolling, like, he got his first $1 million check, and that's what happened when you fight high level guys, or fight the best. But he's gonna be an underdog. I want to go see. I want to go see the odds right quick. No, I'm gonna keep this tab shared. My bad, you guys. Let's see if the odds will pop up. Betting odds, gosh. Vegas. You see, Vegas won't lie to you. If you want to see what's gonna happen, Vegas will not lie to you. Get back. I'm not trying to download y'all app. I'm just trying to see the odds. Get back. So right here, I don't know. Box Live. Plus 600, minus 1,000. It's kind of tell them right there. They basically saying, Floyd. Okay, so right here he's plus 600. Oh no, I cannot talk right now, sweetheart. Let me text my girlfriend back, you guys. gosh. Yeah. But yeah, he's minus 800 and Floyd's plus 600. That should let you know right there, So if we keeping it a stack, this is this is a big test for Floyd, in my opinion. So if he can pull this upset, out, this would be a big upset. I'm not telling you guys to go gamble, or I'm not telling you guys to go gamble your guys' money or do anything of that such. But it's definitely gonna be a tough situation for Floyd to get it done, because if he can't get this shot and he chases that shot all night, it's gonna be a situation where it's 7 rounds or 9 rounds that went by. He's been chasing the same shot, and Shakur has been outboxing him, and he loses the fight, by unanimous decision. So, especially, if Shakur can let his hands go like he should, and we get, a good Shakur, I don't think this is, super tough work for Shakur Stevenson at all. I do give, Floyd credit, for taking the fight, but I don't think Shakur should struggle with this. I do think if Edwin De Los Santos couldn't land the shot, I don't see Floyd doing it. So Floyd's best chance is trying to out hustle him, and doing something like that, because if Shakur turns this to a boxing match, do we really think Floyd has the skill to outbox him? Let me know what you guys think. If you guys are in here, make sure y'all like the live for me so I can get this out to everybody so they can see it. Do me that one favor. Shout out to y'all. That's all I ask. Just make sure y'all like the live. I love you guys so much. But yeah, that's what I think. I don't think it's gonna be I don't think it's gonna be easy, for Floyd at all. Cause like anybody knows, everybody says it, they're saying it right here. Shakur could I see sometimes I don't like these, because Floyd would hunt him down and punish him with power shots, but he doesn't hit as hard as De Los Santos. Like, you just contradicted yourself right there. So, I find these, articles funny sometimes when you read them. You kind of see the bias in them sometimes, and I just don't like that, But yeah, how I see it, I just think it's gonna be a situation where if Floyd doesn't get out fast, it's gonna be bad for him. So that's his best option, because if this fight slows down, I see Shakur outboxing him and getting a decision, and I don't think it's gonna be the end for Floyd Schofield by any means, just because I'm trying to get off of. I try to advocate on my channel that one loss doesn't deter a guy in his career. You seen Ryan Garcia lose to Gervonta Davis. It's just one loss, and you can bounce back. I just don't. I'm just not the fan of it. I don't think one loss deters you. People will still support you, and I think if boxing can adapt that UFC mindset with with you know with the with losing, I think we would actually do better. Because back in the day, it wasn't all that. If you lost, you were done for. It wasn't that. But now it's like that, and it shouldn't be like that. Especially in if you fighting high level. That's just my honest opinion. I've always been an advocate for that. That's what I think. But yeah, I'm still gonna support Floyd. I'm not gonna give him flack for losing to a guy like Shakur. Especially because he took the risk. He didn't have to take this fight. If anything, more pressure is on Shakur Stevenson here. Because Shakur is really supposed to get, a guy. He really supposed to kind of dominate a guy like Floyd Green. He's only 22 years old. Shakur has the experience advantage, the age advantage, and he's been in the bigger fights. So, Shakur should definitely get the job done. and he has more, in my opinion, he has more pressure on him to get it done than a guy like Floyd, in my opinion. So yeah, that's that. But let's move on. Let's move on. What else we talking about? Boom, the college football playoff. I've been talking about it every time I go live. Probably gonna keep talking. Oh no, cancel. Oh, we back. My bad, y'all. My bad. That's me. I'm glad. Can you guys hear me? I don't know if you guys can hear me, but we back. We back. Share screen. It's share. Cool. Okay, bet. We back. We back. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, the college. I have to make sure. Okay, cool. Don't fuck my shit up. Oh, I'm supposed to be cussing. My bad, y'all. Oh, I'm probably about to get off here after I get done discussing this. Gosh. Oh no, yeah, no, that's perfect. Bracket. Perfect. Okay. So we back. The college football playoffs. We finally getting we finally at the top four. Shout out to Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame. And I've been changing my pick because I kind of be confused. But right now it's looking very. I feel like the game's been a lot of blowouts, but it's always been blowouts in the college football playoffs or in BCS. It's been blowouts. Georgia beat TCU like 66-3 or something like that. It's been blowouts all the time in the college football playoffs. So I don't think guys should be complaining or crying, because it's always been a thing if we keep it a stack. But right now, the Texas Ohio State, that's gonna be a great football game. Penn State, Notre Dame, and I'll talk about these games right here first because I still think these are important. Texas, they survived against Arizona State. Arizona State really had them, but Sark came. He coached. He had some sauce in that second OT when he threw that tight end. I don't know, it was a tight end wheel or something like that. But shout out to Scatterable. He really balled out, and he almost carried those guys to a victory. And even though I thought they would have been outmatched against either Oregon or Ohio State, I definitely thought they fought hard against Texas. But Texas got the job done, so we got to give them credit for getting here. Ohio State, this should have been like my game of the year. I had Ohio State in a parlay. Shout out to Ohio State. Y'all, they got the job done for us, and they made it kind of, decisive. I didn't think Oregon really didn't stand a chance in that first game. We should have known. You can't really judge a game by a first game because those teams were totally different teams. The second step around, so I don't think people should have been like, oh, they lost the first game, they're gonna lose. They only lost by 1 point in their first game, so I don't think it was good for you guys to be like, oh, they lost that one game. They're gonna beat them. It's hard to beat a team twice. So let's not do that, in my opinion. But yeah, Texas, Ohio State. They're the first game. No, they're the second game because they played the 10th, and Penn State, Notre Dame played second. Boom. Hold on, let me move down. Boom. Cool. Penn State versus Boise State. My brother wanted Boise State to compete, but it happens. I told him they were kind of outmatched. The D line and O line, that kind of things control the game. And Genty, fumbling, putting a ball on the ground a few times. I think they recovered one of them, but he put the ball on the ground, I know, twice for sure. And that's not going to help you win. But if he would have gave him maybe a miraculous performance or something like that, they might would have had a shot. But I'm not the biggest Drew Allen fan anyway. But I didn't think Boise State had enough to contend with a team like Penn State, and that's no knock to them. I do think Boise State had a great year. They're going to get a first rounder, and Genty is going to be a first rounder from Boise State, so they're going to benefit from that. And we got to give them the credit. Notre Dame, Georgia. Shout out to Notre Dame. When you seen a number at +2, because I was leaning Georgia to win it all, but once I seen the number, they was giving, Notre Dame a lot of respect, and at game time the number was flipped from +2 to -1, so that told you everything you need to know about what the game. And Notre Dame basically out physical Georgia, in my opinion. Notre Dame didn't throw the ball down the field just consistently, so they basically out physical and look liberal Georgia, and the SEC, besides Texas, kind of looking shaky. They ain't as dominant as they once used to be. So maybe it's a new tide in college football. So now we at the top four. And it's gonna be two good games in my opinion. Maybe not. I think Ohio State, Texas. In my opinion, Quinn Ewers, he ain't really did anything spectacular in these playoffs. He just been. I think he got like 31 touchdowns, and people been complaining about his play. It maybe is because we expected him, to go super crazy, but I think Ohio State and their defense may be they're going to be able to handle the physicality of a team like Texas, because Texas like to run that ball, and it's going to be in the hands of Quinn Ewers. Can Quinn Ewers throw the ball down the field? Because I do think Ohio State will be able to handle the run for the most part. I think Ohio State is the favorite by 6, and 6 points. I think they might beat them 31-24 or something like that, 31-20. Because I do think Ohio State is physical. I think they're going to be able to match Texas physicality at a point. So, if Texas can't run the ball, I kind of lean Ohio State here. So, that's my pick right there. And Penn State, Notre Dame. I think Penn State has two layups. Has had two layups. On their way to the top 4. And that is what it is. They had two layups, but I don't think this Notre Dame team is a layup at all. I think them beating Georgia showed that they can handle a physical team, and it's gonna be basically can Notre Dame stop that Penn State run? Because if they can stop that Penn State run and make Drew Allen be a QB, I definitely think they have a chance of getting the job done. And Marcus Freeman gets in that championship, because James Franklin does have a tendency to choke here in these spots. That's no knock to him, but he does. James does have a tendency, to choke in these spots. So, I'm kind of gonna lean Notre Dame, and we get Texas. I mean Ohio State and Notre Dame in the championship, and hopefully Ryan Day doesn't choke. Marcus Freeman, he's gonna be looking to grab his first title, same as Ryan Day. So I hopefully that's my pick. I think those two get in, and I think Ohio State gets it done. I think they're the more well versed team between Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame gets to the championship, but I just don't think they have the strength to beat a team like Ohio State. They got their freshman Jeremiah Smith. He they loaded. You know, Ibuka, Carnell Smith. You know, then you got Judkins, Henderson. You know, they're a loaded team. You know, Caleb Downs on defense, Sawyer. You know, they're deep. So you know, Ryan Day. You know, he has very high expectations to get this job done. So in my opinion, yeah, I want to see oh gosh. Yeah, I want to see whatchamacallit get it done in my opinion. But yeah, I want to see Ohio State get it done. That's my favorite. But I'm gonna get out of here. I love you guys, man. Y'all have a blessed day. Y'all be safe. I'm gonna start going live more often on the MacBook so I can get used to it. I love you guys so much, so much, so much, so much, so much. I'm out.